Hello guys, it's Prajna. Welcome back to another Division 2 video. So in today's video, I'm going to showcase 3 powerful SMG builds to use for the Year 6 season, 2 Shades of Red. These 3 builds work great for solo PVE and are super viable for farming heroic content out in the open world. The first build on this list is an extremely powerful Chatterbox build leveraging the power of the Striker's battlegear set. The Chatterbox is very similar to the Ouroboros, and its RPM is deadly when combined with the Striker gear set. So this is a great build for players who want to deal out an insane amount of raw weapon damage. The next build on this list is a well-balanced SMG build with both survivability and damage. This build uses the M1928, a classic Tommy gun from the Call of Duty franchise, to deal out a godly amount of weapon damage. The base damage on this weapon is insanely high, and combined with the Heartbreaker gear set, the damage you will see on this build is astronomical. So this is another viable build. It's great for players who want a bit more survivability while still maintaining a very high damage out. Last but certainly not least is also a very powerful and fun to use SMG build, using the Backfire Exotic SMG. So this build has bleed resistance, and I'll explain why this is a bleed resistance build during the breakdown, but it's fun to play with and hits extremely hard. So before we get started here, just a quick mention. These 3 builds are made to suit my playstyle better, so feel free to change the pieces or skills to fit your own playstyle. So even if you don't have all the pieces to set these up, I'm hoping these builds will at least give you a great idea or inspire you for your own creation. So with that being said, I invite you to view these 3 builds as a template if you may, okay? So now, without further ado, tickle the like button's feet and let's get started. So guys, this first build is a 4-piece Striker's battlegear setup with 1-piece Sokolov and the Memento exotic backpack. And since this is an SMG build, the Intimidate talent on the Sokolov vest works really well. Intimidate will basically grant you up to 36% increased weapon damage at full stacks. And the Memento backpack is an excellent addition because it not only helps activate the Intimidate talent, but it also grants an increased weapon damage, skill efficiency, and bonus armor. So with the Memento backpack, you will need to collect trophies, which will provide you with a short and long-term buff. The short-term buff will give you the following attribute bonuses, so weapon damage, bonus armor, and skill efficiency. And this will scale to the amount you have equipped. So for instance, since I have 5 blue core attributes, for each trophy I collect, I'll be getting 50% bonus armor for 10 seconds. But this doesn't stack, so each time you collect a trophy, it will simply just refresh the timer and buff. And with Intimidate, you will gain 1 stack each second up to a max of 9. And each stack will increase your weapon damage by 4%. However, all stacks are lost when you have no bonus armor. But the long-term buff from the Memento backpack talent gives you armor regen. So this build has a decent amount of survivability as well. Now for the primary weapon, the Chatterbox has a very decent talent. So when you reload, the rate of fire is increased by 25% for each enemy within 15 meters of you for the duration of that magazine. Also, kills will refill 50% of your magazine, so that's hella nice. So with the Striker gear set, the RPM is at 978. But when you factor in the 25% increased rate of fire from the Chatterbox, the RPM gets bumped to a little over 1200. So that's pretty similar to the Ouroboros. And since the Ouroboros has gotten nerfed, the Chatterbox makes a great replacement. And for the secondary weapon, since this is a Striker build, I'm using the named ACS-12 shotgun, the Rock and Roll. This weapon is great for building Striker stacks, so I basically swap to the Rock and Roll, get my Striker stacks up, then swap back to the Chatterbox and go crazy. Now for the attributes on the gear pieces, you want to roll crits. Okay, so I have critical hit damage rolled on the mask, gloves and knee pads, and critical hit chance rolled on the holster. And for the stats, 58% critical hit chance and 144% critical hit damage. So I suggest you roll either critical hit chance or damage on your gear pieces, depending on what you need to get similar stats. And for the weapon specialization, I'm using Gunner for the 10% armor on kill bonus, but feel free to use whichever you prefer. Just make sure that you're allocating your points to get the bonus SMG and shotgun damage towards the bottom left of the weapon specialization tree. Just a friendly reminder because personally, I tend to forget every now and then. For the skills, I'm using the Crusader Ballistic Shield because in my opinion, it works well with SMG builds. Since you will need to be up close and personal, the Ballistic Shield adds some nice protection because NPCs can really get out of pocket sometimes. but feel free to use whatever skill you prefer. For the secondary skill, I'm using Decoy, but I recommend using the Reviver Hive if you're playing solo. Okay guys, this next build is crazy. So for anyone who's seen my recent Heartbreaker AR build video, well, this is very similar to that. So it's basically an SMG version. So this is a 4-piece Heartbreaker setup with the M1928, which is basically the Tommy gun. And since the Tommy gun has a very low RPM, I decided to go with the new Centurion scabbard holster because it will provide a 20% rate of fire and weapon damage increase, as well as a 50% magazine size and reload speed increase. This is really nice to have because this gun already has such an extremely high base damage, and since I swap between weapons to build my Heartbreaker stacks, this works out well. For the talent on this weapon, since most of the gunfights will be up close, I'm using the close and personal talent, which grants 30% increased weapon damage after killing an enemy within 7 meters for 10 seconds. For the secondary weapon, I'm using the named Rock and Roll shotgun to build up Heartbreaker stacks. Oh, and since this is an SMG build, I'm not able to use the linked laser pointer, so I went with the gunner specialization for the 10% armor on kill. So with Heartbreaker, for those who don't know, you will need to build up Heartbreaker stacks that you can only achieve on pulsed enemies. And landing a headshot will apply pulse to an enemy. So you can simply swap to your CS12 shotgun, land a headshot, and just go for body shots after that to get your stacks maxed out. Also, having the Heartbreaker vest helps increase Heartstopper stacks from 50 to 100, increasing your weapon damage and bonus armor significantly. You can easily max your Heartbreaker stacks with one clip from the Rock and Roll named ACS-12 shotgun since it comes with a bigger mag. For the backpack, I decided to stash the Heartbreaker bag and instead go with the named Liquid Engineer bag that comes with the talent Perfect Bloodsucker. Perfect Bloodsucker will grant you 12% bonus armor per kill for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times, so this adds more survivability. I actually prefer this over the Heartbreaker bag because I also get 1% armor regen from this piece since it's a Bellstone Armory piece. For the attributes on the gear pieces, I have critical hit damage rolled on the Heartbreaker mask, gloves, and knee pads, and critical hit chance rolled on the vest. And for the stats, 48% critical hit chance and 117% critical hit damage. Although the critical hit damage is on the low side, the Heartbreaker gear set is powerful, so you will still see great damage, especially if you decide to use the up-close and personal talent on this weapon. For the skills, I'm using the Crusader Ballistic Shield and Reviver Hive, but again, feel free to use whatever floats your boat. Okay, so this last build is a bit more intricate than the first two, but it's very fun to use and has decent damage. This is a high-end build with the Ninja Bike Exotic Backpack. So for those who don't know, this backpack's talent will basically reduce both gear set and brand set bonus requirements by 1 piece. So in other words, I only have 1 piece Cavalier equipped, and I get the 2-piece bonus, which is 30% hazard protection. This exotic backpack is a great addition for putting together some very powerful hybrid builds. So for the primary weapon, I'm using the Backfire Exotic SMG. This weapon is actually surprisingly good if you can set it up to where you don't have to worry about the negative side effects of its talent. So with the weapon talent, dealing damage to enemies adds a stack of 2% critical hit damage, stacking up to 100 stacks, so that's 200% critical hit damage at max stacks, right? But here's the catch. Reloading your weapon will apply bleed to yourself for 10 seconds, and the bleed applied will deal 0.5% armor damage per stack. So this is why I mentioned that this is a bleed resistance build, so you're going to need some bleed resistance mods and hazard protection. So since I have 2 pieces of the 511 gear set equipped, I get 30% hazard protection and another 30% hazard protection from the Cavalier holster, and 2 pieces of the electric brand set for the 30% SMG damage, one of which is the named Henry vest that comes with the perfect companion talent. This talent is a nice addition and adds 20% total weapon damage. However, in order to activate the companion talent, you need to be within 10 meters of either an ally or skill, and for that reason, my secondary skill is the Fixer drone. The Fixer drone is great because it will provide me some heals even though it won't be much, but still, it helps keep the companion talent activated, so I get that 20% weapon damage increase. For the secondary weapon, you can go with whatever you like, and for the weapon specialization, I'm using Gunner for the 10% armor on kill bonus. For the attributes on the gear pieces, critical hit damage and hazard protection on the mask, and both critical hit chance and damage on the Henry vest, gloves, and knee pads. and critical hit damage on the holster. For the stats, 57% critical hit chance and 129% critical hit damage. And 80% hazard protection, with 99% bleed resistance, so you want to make sure your bleed resistance is at least 90%. And you can do that by adding some bleed resistance mods. So I have bleed resistance mods on both my vest and backpack. For the primary skill, I'm using the Crusader Ballistic Shield, because again, it suits my playstyle, and since this is an SMG build, it helps out with survivability when fighting close quarters. This is Prajna. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and consider subscribing. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Good luck farming, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Like always, keep it cool, keep it classy, and see you in the next video. Peace out.